Welcome to Wesley Impact. I'm Keith Garner. Now I'm actually standing outside the Wesley Conference Centre today. In a few moments we'll take a look around and find out a little more of what goes on here at our headquarters in the middle of the city of Sydney. But first, when you suffer a major setback, do you get back on your feet, brush off the dust and keep looking forward? Thank you for your company today. Now, over the next few weeks, we'll be doing something different. We're taking Wesley Impact on the road, visiting a number of our Wesley Mission centres from where we base our work. I'll be speaking with some of my colleagues who are on the front line of so much of our work, dealing directly with the people who we seek to serve. Across all areas of our work, Wesley Mission values each and every individual, all the people that we come into contact with. We don't just see the problems or the issues that present, but the person behind the presenting problems. And we show love and care, motivated always by a Christian faith, because we want to do all the good we can. Here at Wesley Conference Centre, in the heart of the Sydney CBD, we have 4 levels of office space, a 900-seater theatre and conference centre, lyceum theatre, chapels, meeting rooms, on-site restaurant and cafe, and so much more is happening here. To my left here, we have an exhibition that runs down the side of the ground floor of the mission, which tells us something of the historical items and pictures, Bibles, photographs of past superintendents, the first telephone where Lifeline ever received a call in. And all this is a reminder of what Wesley Mission is and the lengths that we'll go to help people in need receive the message of God's love. In a few moments, I'm going to speak to Jessica Warner, a gifted member of my team here, who has responsibility for the Wesley Conference Centre. And Deb Ezzy-Walton will be singing later in the show, I Choose Jesus. I'll be starting a series that lasts for 12 weeks, looking at different characters in the Christian story. I'll begin with Simon Peter, fisherman turned disciple turned apostle. I'm looking forward to sharing that series with you. Now, here at the Wesley Conference Centre, there's always so much going on. Not only do we have conferences and meetings happening here, this on-site restaurant and cafe is very helpful. Our head office is here. But most of all, important to all of us, our congregations are based here. This is very much a church facility where the gospel is preached, where people come to find hope and meaning in their lives. I asked the question earlier, when you suffer a setback, do you get back up, brush off the dust and keep looking forward? Well, we've had to do that many times in the story of Wesley Mission. Wesley Mission's always had a presence in the city centre, and our buildings and facilities are so much a part of the tools that help us do our work. During his time as superintendent, a famous predecessor of mine, the Reverend Alan Walker, recognised the importance of creating a place where people can come for social activities and in an informal way. He developed the Lyceum, and from a meeting where people could come, they could share together in worship, but informally too. Well, it all came to a head when there was an enormous fire here in 1964. And that really destroyed so many of our buildings. It had to be rebuilt in 1966. And then it was later my immediate predecessor, the Reverend Gordon Moyes, that helped to develop the centre into what it is today. And in recent years, we've upgraded it beyond all measure. Since Wesley Mission began in 1812, we've always had a strong, forward-thinking leaders who've sought to progress our work, always looking into the future, prepared to meet the needs of the vulnerable and the needy. I count it as a great privilege to serve as superintendent of Wesley Mission. Let's take a look together at some of my predecessors and the important work that they did.
The origins of Wesley Mission stretch back to the first Methodist church established in Sydney in 1812. Since our foundation, we have been a community of hope and grace, providing care to those who are frail, lonely, disconnected and marginalised in Sydney and beyond. And throughout our history, we have been guided by a strong line of faithful, passionate leaders. 1812 was a time when liberty, grace and possibility were alive in the early colony. Convinced of the need for someone to guide them, the early Methodists wrote a compelling and successful appeal to the British Methodist Conference to send a minister to the new colony. The Reverend Samuel Lee arrived in Australia in 1815. In 1884, W.G. Taylor was appointed superintendent. A new word and deed policy was developed, committed evangelism coupled with serving the practical needs of the community. It was he who coined the term, a living Christ for a dying world. Taylor retired after 22 years and the Reverend P.J. Stephen took on superintendency. He was followed by the Reverend Samuel J. Hoban, who led Wesley Mission from 1915 to 1921 through the difficult years of the First World War. The Reverend H.C. Foreman succeeded him for a 10-year term until 1931. The Reverend R.J. Williams was superintendent for the next 6 years, serving as leader throughout the Depression. In 1938, the Reverend F.H. Raywood was appointed superintendent, leading until 1958, when the Reverend Alan Walker took up the position. A passionate and outspoken leader, Walker used the media extensively and attracted both praise and criticism for his dynamic leadership style. Into these shoes, the young Gordon Moyes stepped. It was in 1978 that the Reverend Gordon Moyes began his 27-year tenure of superintendency, overseeing the enrichment of Wesley Mission's media profile and continuing the strong word and deed ministry of Wesley Mission. In 1988, Moyes oversaw the extensive redevelopment of the old Lyceum Theatre in Pitt Street, Sydney. A new building was designed and built, containing a theatre, church, head office and conference centre. Gordon Moyes retired from superintendency in 2005 and Keith Garner took up the role, a position that he continues in today. It is remarkable to see how things have grown at Wesley Mission. Today, more than 2,000 staff and 3,000 volunteers continue in the footsteps of those who have gone before, caring for those in need and sharing the generous love of Jesus Christ without fear or favour. If you would like to see more of the work of Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can watch loads more videos, catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact TV, find out about our diverse range of services and get involved to help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and stay up to date on the latest news and information from Wesley Mission. wesleymission.org.au.
So if you want to find out more about Wesley Mission, go to our website at wesleymission.org.au. And as you can probably guess, I'm in the Wesley Centre here now to talk a little bit more about what this centre is about. I'm sat actually in our upper room restaurant cafe, and where you can come during the day, and I'm also very fortunate to be able to have a conversation with somebody who's significant in our work, Jessica. Jess, tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Yeah, so my role here is looking after conferences and recreation for the organisation. So overseeing the Wesley Conference Centre, Wesley Vision Valley, before and after school care and our training rooms at Ashfield and Cochrane Mental Health Hospitals.
So that's quite a big portfolio of things. What goes on in here?
So we have Wesley Connect, which is our homeless services. So clients can come in and get any services that they need in terms of food or personal care items. We have our Lifeline support services upstairs as well, and then we also have our conference centre and the School for Seniors program.
So there's a lot packed on a space here right in the middle of the centre of the city.
Yes, yeah, quite a lot happens down here. We have around 3,500 people will come through our front door every week.
We couldn't have a better location, could we?
Absolutely, we are not too far from the Pitt Street shopping centre, which is great. Yeah, absolutely. Right in the heart of the city, we've got some great services here.
And what do you think is the most important thing about this centre?
I think that it's open to everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're coming into to the centre for church services, whether you're coming in for Wesley Mission services, or just into this wonderful cafe for lunch and a coffee with friends.
And the kind of things that happen in here during the year, what sort of different things happen?
So we have our Wesley Fair every year. So we open up the centre for people to come in and purchase a whole bunch of different things here. We have School for Seniors run special events throughout the year as well. And then through our conference centre, we have a lot of our corporates come in for their AGMs and different events.
Yeah, look, I'm looking forward to talking to Brian a little later in the show. Tell us a bit more about the conference centre itself. But you know, this place is an important place. It's been here a long time, though on 2 occasions it's really nearly come to an end, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And been rebuilt and remodeled. And it's now much more modern, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is a great place. It's an opportunity for us to come together with clients, to connect with people. A lot of people come to connect with God while they're here as well, and then just to understand the different services that Wesley has. So it's really the heart of the city for us.
Now, you've enabled me now by saying that to ask you a personal question about what you get out of it. I mean, is it important for you as a Christian that you work in this space?
Absolutely. I think it's one of the beauties of working for Wesley Mission is that Christ is at the centre of everything that we do. And, you know, there are days where we have some really challenging times with some of the clients we work with. And knowing that we have an opportunity to stop and to pray for those people and to pray for the people that work with us so we can get through some of those challenges that we have.
Jess, I'm just so thrilled that you're on the staff and part and parcel of the Wesley Mission team and working with us throughout. And we know we've not talked about some of the problems that happen because we're the kind of place we are that's open to all people. I hope if you've never been in the Wesley Centre, you'll take the opportunity for this encouragement of this interview here to come in and pop in and make yourself known. I'm going to talk, as I said earlier, to Brian Collier before the end of the show, but we're now going to welcome Deb Ezzy-Walton, who's Deb's been with us now for many, many years. I know some in her family call her Deborah. She's Deb to us. We're delighted she's going to sing to us, and she's going to sing a song called I Choose Jesus.
I have searched to find the meaning of this life, something that would fill my empty soul. Some believe a lie, choose darkness over light, but I will stand and let the whole world know. I choose Jesus, I choose Jesus, the one who first chose me. I stand unashamed, trusting in one name, 'cause I have seen the cross and I believe. Oh, this choice comes at a cost. All other things are lost. No other name could mean so much to me. I choose Jesus, I choose Jesus, the one who first chose me. I choose
Over the years of Wesley Impact, Keith Garner has had hundreds of conversations sharing stories of hope, resilience, love and the Christian faith. Perspectives on Faith and Sport is a collection of inspiring and insightful conversations with people who are champions in their field, including Commonwealth Games gold medalist Deb Lovely, tennis great Margaret Court, Olympic swimmer Elka Whalen, long distance runner Eloise Wellings, Olympic gold medalist Duncan Armstrong, and two-time boxing world champion Nigel Benn. Each conversation shares a unique perspective on sport and the achievements of notable sporting greats, and collectively presents a broad cross-section of athletes and how their faith has changed their lives. Perspectives on Faith and Sport is the second instalment of a three-part series and is available now from Wesley Mission. To find out more, contact Wesley Mission on 02 9263 5555 or email impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
I do hope you're enjoying our special programme from the Wesley Conference Centre today. Now, behind me is the Wesley Church. We have the church and the theatre, both positioned at the centre of our operations. Here we hold a number of services during the week and at weekends, and also special events throughout the year as part of our evangelical outreach. I mentioned that I'd like to bring you a series to coincide with us visiting a number of our centres. Today, I'd like to start by looking at Simon Peter, that massive character who Jesus said he would build his church on his rock-like faith. I recorded these addresses, mind you, in the Wesley Impact studio. I'm beginning a series today where I look at some of the inspiring men and women we find in the New Testament. As we briefly examine each of their lives, we're bound to question what their legacy is, or put another way, what impact did they have on the world and leave for us today? Without any doubt, amongst the 12 immediate followers of Jesus, Simon Peter is the person about whom we know the most. I've chosen to consider his life from a critical midpoint, where he denied knowing Jesus. He decided to follow, he had been part of that special group, and then he denied him. So I'm going to read from Luke chapter 22, verses 56 through to 62. A servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight. She looked closely at him and said, "This man was with him." But he denied it. "Woman, I don't know him," he said. A little later, someone else saw him and said, "You are also one of them." "Man, I am not," Peter replied. About an hour later, another asserted, "Certainly this fellow was with him, for he is a Galilean." Peter replied, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." Just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. And Peter remembered the word the Lord had spoken. "Before the rooster crows today, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. You know, I think that's one of the saddest passages in the whole of the New Testament. Of course, we remember how he was originally known as Simon and was given the name of Peter, which had its link to the word rock. But here that rock is crumbling and crumbling fast. We also know that this same Peter became the first great leader of the Christian community. His experience of denial helped to shape him. He contradicted Jesus at Caesarea Philippi. Jesus restored him on the beach. That wonderful passage at the end of John's Gospel where Jesus takes him away from the rest of the disciples and gives him a wonderful sense of calling to feed my sheep, says Jesus. He is the leader of the apostles at the early part of the Acts of the Apostles. There's that wonderful moment at Pentecost where Peter stands up and all the apostles stand up with him. What is it then about Peter that attracts people to him? Well, I reckon if I had to put it in a nutshell, I'd say this. It's his very limitations, his blunders, the signs of weakness that endear us to him. We really do feel we want to understand more about this man. He feels more like one of us. Perhaps we're drawn to him because he's very much like ourselves. The work of the Holy Spirit changed Peter into the man he became. He becomes one who is unafraid to declare the good news of Jesus. And so many must have been Peter was prepared to do that. He was prepared to challenge the church, to think about the way that it did things after it grew out of this Jewish group into a Christian church. And of course, tradition leads us to understand that his own life was taken from him in Rome. There are all kinds of stories. There are those who say he was crucified upside down on the way into the great city of Rome. Now, whatever happened, it's quite clear that Peter gave his life and himself to Jesus Christ. What a life. It begins with that sense of call when his brother brings him actually to Jesus, and Jesus knows what it is to challenge him and to say, you are and you will be. You are known as this. You will become like a rock, rock-like in your faith, rock-like in your purpose, rock-like in your commitment. What a great man is Peter. And Peter will always speak to us, I think, of the man who knew what it was to go through the cauldron, and that's what it is, a cauldron of denial, a cauldron of experience as he feels the pain. And there's a picture that used to hang, you know, in many church rooms, and it's a picture of Jesus as he looks at Peter. It's summed up in those words. And the Peter recognizes in the verse 61, the Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. Gosh, is it the look that makes him break down? Is it the look that brings him to a point where he's full of tears? I suspect it is, because that look is a look of love. That look, if it's a look of compassion, that look speaks right to the very heart and core of who Peter is. It is no wonder he doesn't just know what it is to weep. We read in these words that he wept bitterly. Oh gosh, full of regret, full of concern for what he'd done. In his introduction to 1 Peter, the great Bible expositor F.B. Mayer points out the fact that it would have been unlikely to ever imagine that the impulsive, rough-handed, so fond of action Peter could write such tender words to a suffering and persecuted church. That's what he did. It's him who writes, perhaps, to a community that is now being persecuted. He can only write in that way because his heart had been touched, because his life had been changed, and because he had been through that experience, not only of denial, but of restoration. And when Jesus calls Peter to join him on the beach away from the rest, the question that he asks him is, do you love me? And do you love me? That has a feel also of that same look of Jesus to Peter. It's a challenging look. It's one that questions the very heart of his intention, his purpose. And that I think is the nature of what it is that actually changes Peter and makes him the kind of person that can lead the church out of its narrowness to understand it must be a church ready to reach the Gentiles. It must be a church ready to reach the world. You see, that is what God does. And that is the nature of God's transforming love in Jesus Christ. It changes Peter, it changes me, and it can certainly change you.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235. Or you can send an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also connect to Keith's blog and stay up to date on all of the latest news and information from Wesley Mission. wesleymission.org.au.
Well, thank you for sharing with us in the programme as usual, and we keep telling you many times to get onto our website at Impact TV at wesleymission.org.au, and you'll find lots there. And I'm always prepared to receive letters or emails from people who want to share with us. Now, we're focusing very much on the Wesley Centre, and we're now downstairs in the bowels of the earth, as it were, and I'm talking to Brian Collier, who has responsibility for this area of... How many rooms are there?
On the lower ground, Keith, we have 6 rooms,
Yes.
and the Lyceum on the ground floor. The main room down here, of course, is the Wesley Theatre, which I always call a jewel in our crown.
Yeah.
It seats 800 people, tiered theatre style, which is very popular with corporates. And
So when you say, so we are both a church and a
Yes,
conference
indeed.
centre. So tell us some of the kind of things that go on in here.
we have the day-to-day meetings from 20 to 200-300 people, but the major events here during the year are staff briefings for corporates, banks, Telstras of this world, and the annual general meeting season from September to December, where the whole centre is full with shareholders and business people alike.
Brian, in a sentence, what do you get out of doing this job?
The satisfaction of working for a Christian organisation.
Look, it's wonderful to talk to people and to have that kind of witness about this place. And if you want to know more out about not only Wesley Mission, but specifically the conference centre and how you can use it, don't be afraid to go onto our website to find out more about Wesley Mission. Find out more about us. I've been delighted to share with you about Simon Peter and some of those wonderful characters. But most of all, we're delighted that you've had the opportunity of sharing with us too. God bless you.
Wesley Mission helps more than 2,800 families each year through our Wesley Family Centres. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.